I'm speaking with Dr. Mark Jackson, University of Louisville, about skin reactions to PPIs. There are zillions of Americans on PPIs, prescription and over-the-counter. I was a little surprised to learn that there is a problem with cutaneous drug eruptions. Talk about it.
Well, proton pump inhibitors are something that a lot of the world is on, and even with the over-the-counter versions now available, even more people than we sometimes know, because they might not mention that they're on something over-the-counter when we're asking them about medicines. But it's not unusual that we will find that some patients actually can have a reaction to their proton pump inhibitors, and not something that we typically attribute to a PPI. And the most common reactions that we see are these more morbilliform eruptions. Many people call them maculopapular, so that means they have a flat component and a raised component, and it can be very non-specific. And if you're not aware that a proton pump inhibitor could cause a problem like that, you might not attribute it to that medicine. The interesting part is, with proton pump inhibitor reactions, many times you could switch to a different proton pump inhibitor and not get the reaction. There doesn't tend to be cross-reactivity of getting the reaction when you switch to another medicine. So there's a way that you can stay on it and not get the reaction. So that awareness is really important.
Well, that's huge. If you think about tens of millions of people on aspirin for secondary cardiovascular prevention and on a PPI because they're at risk for bleeding, if they can stay on their aspirin because they're not bleeding by switching to a different PPI.
Right.
Interesting. And is there a pattern of the timing when these reactions occur?
Usually it's in the first 3 or 4 months. Sometimes it's a bit after they've been on it a little bit longer. So there could be some reservoir effect of the medicine being on board that creates a little bit of the hypersensitivity reaction. It's not usually in the first week, and so sometimes it may be a little harder to recognize unless you're really looking for that reaction. And if you're really aware that can occur even after a long duration of time, you might be able to better implicate the medicine that's doing it.
Especially if you know that because you've asked that somebody's taking it over the counter. I mean, they're right there in the drugstore now, right?
I would just say there's one caveat to the non-cross reactivity. There's some people who can develop a lupus-like reaction on the skin, not the internal type of lupus that we know of as systemic lupus, but a cutaneous type only. And in those people, it tends to be that there is cross-reactivity, so they couldn't switch to a different PPI and be risk-free of not getting the same reaction. So that's one of the instances where there is a little cross-reactivity between classes.
And this is a different looking morphologically skin reaction. This looks like lupus?
Correct, yeah. Correct. And this is a more characteristic manifestation of a cutaneous type of lupus that can be easily recognized. And so something that you wouldn't want to switch that patient to another PPI, or if you did, you just want to be cautious to know that reaction could occur.
Are there any numbers on the incidence of this?
Numbers are really low. It looks like anywhere from 5 to maybe 20 cases per 100,000, depending on the product. And there are a lot of PPIs that are available, but the numbers really, when you're looking at 5 to 20 out of 100,000, that's not that many. But when you think about how many people are on them, it ends up being more than you would anticipate.
5 to 20 million?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a very interesting practical point.